Claudia, what was the first thought that went through your head when you finished the final event at the semifinals?
Oh my God. That's a good one. I think so many things at the same time, but actually nothing. Like I saw this line, I knew I just had to cross it and I knew I would qualify. So there's actually like pictures and videos and I remember I did it, but when I see it, it's always like uh not a shock, but I open my eyes and I'm like, wow, okay, that's done. Like that's the end of the weekend. I did it. And like I was confident and etc. But you never know until it's done. So yeah, when I crossed that line, I was just like, wow, I did it. And then I'm a very emotional girl. So I just took a few seconds to realize and then I was just crying. But like I was so happy and then I turned my head, I saw my family and they were like crazy and then I turned my head again. I saw you guys, Luc, Basil, Isa, like it was just crazy.
Welcome to the Upside Strength Podcast, the show that will help you get your health and your performance to the next level. Whether you're a recreational or competitive athlete, a coach, a physio, or even just someone who's curious about sport, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. What was your best memory from the weekend?
Well, I think there are many, but I remember like obviously that finish line was the highlight, I would say. Then I also remember about the snatch ladder. Like I was very focused doing it, and on all the events, I didn't look at the timer because Luke told me it's at the right end of the floor, but I didn't see it, so actually I couldn't. But usually I don't really look at the timer. But I was done. I crossed the finish line. I knew I did very well, but I didn't know if I was close to what I practiced or not, or like I could just see regarding of the field. But then I watched the TV and it was me, and I saw my time, and I'm like, what? Like I couldn't believe I did like 1 minute and 30 seconds faster than at training. So yeah, that was obviously a highlight as well. And then if I have to pick one last one, maybe the running event. Like I was just very happy with my performance, and like I could, yeah, I was just very calm. Like even though you can think, okay, she placed 23rd, like it's not very good for a start of the weekend, but I didn't care about the leaderboard. I just was very proud about my efforts, and like I was very calm about that, and I knew like it would be okay.
Yeah, because running is definitely something that you've had to work on a lot in the last year. Talk about that. What was the state of your running last year at semifinals?
Yeah, I mean, we started working with Max. When was it? A
I think it
bit
was
before.
quarterfinals. Yeah,
Yeah, I
quarterfinals
think it was.
2023.
Yeah, yeah. After quarterfinals, you reached out to Max, and we started working together. So I already had a bit of like experience with Max and like the intro into the running world, let's say. And I did running as well before quarterfinals, but like it wasn't that good before, and it's still like a big work in progress, and it takes so much. I don't think it's months, it's just years to get like very good at running. Like when you compare to runners, they run like miles a week, like hundreds of miles a week to get better. So when you try to do like 20 plus kilometers per week, like with all the other training, like you can get better, but it just takes so much time. So what was the question about? Oh
R-
yeah,
Running
about
at the
running.
semis last year. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 800 meters. It was on the air runner, and then the other event it was on the also the air runner. And I remember I was just on that machine. I don't remember if we did a bit of specific training, but like with only three 3 months of prep, like we did what we could, and it was already okay. But still, like I felt like the good thing was I knew my paces. I knew a bit more about myself than like the previous years, but I still knew like I couldn't push harder than that, and I still had to work like on the long run. So yeah, that was about it about last year.
If we come back to this year, so you finish semifinals, you qualify for the CrossFit Games. So you place sixth in Europe,
Mhm.
and I believe is it ninth or 10th overall on the semis leaderboard that they did at the end, something like that.
10, yeah, 10 girls.
10th, so that's amazing. Great result.
Mhm.
How long did it take you to realize what you had done after the semifinals? How were the days following the weekend?
Yeah, it was weird. Like now I realized, but sometimes I'm still like, I'm just back into routine training and doing what I love, and like it's fun because I can call it games prep now. But until I will be at the games, I think I will not, like, I will realize there that it's the games. But I realized that I qualified during the weekend, obviously, because it was just so intense. Like, the competition itself, even if you don't call it semifinals, like the French showdown, it was just crazy. I never experienced something like that. You were there, I think, and you heard like the screams and everything. Like, the energy was just crazy
It was
there.
insane.
I
Yeah.
I never saw that, like, and experienced that. It was just crazy on every event, especially when it was the Frenchies, like crazy, crazy. So I think, like, I realized when I crossed that line, and then again when they called my name, and it was like just how I saw it, like in my dreams and everything. But then after that, like the day after, I was just like after a big hangover, my head was, I think, physically I was quite fine actually, but just the nervous system and my head was just like, okay, for 3 days people were screaming, like obviously you're performing and everything, so it, and under stress the nerves are crazy, adrenaline, blah blah blah. So of course after you always have it down, but like it was even more like that because I knew I wanted to be by myself for like 2 days because it was a lot at the same time. But at the same time, when I was by myself, I was like just dead. I don't know, it's weird to explain. Like after a big hangover, really.
It's interesting the impact, the emotional impact, because like you said,
Mm,
physically those semifinals weren't the hardest, competition that you've done. There's been harder competitions with a lot more volume and
mm.
workouts that were a lot more taxing, but this one was okay. So it was really just just
Yeah,
the nervous
easy.
system and the emotional side. But
Mm,
I think would you say people underestimate the impact of a competition on your emotional state?
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I think I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me because I know I'm very like sensitive to emotions and everything, so I take a lot in. And during the competition, I try not to. Like, I make like I let my emotion lives and everything, but like I try to stay a bit distant and everything. So when it's the end, like I take it all in. So maybe I'm a bit like more emotional, but I think, yes, I mean, even if you're very happy or you're very sad, like for the people that did not qualify or didn't perform as they think, like maybe we think a bit too much like about the physical, and we say, okay, maybe in like 3 days you're good to go again, but what about like what's happening in your head? Like that's a lot.
yeah, that's probably a good segue to again go back to last year. We talked a little bit about the running, but what I'd like to do is go back to semis 2023, talk about what happened there, and then talk about your training for the last year and how it changed and how it led you to qualify for the games this year. So semis last year, what was your final placement?
20 something, 22, 23, something like that,
Right, I think it was
or
something like that.
60 last year.
60 last year, right? So a bigger field. Um, how did you feel after that competition, given that obviously your goal last year was already to qualify for the games? So what state were you in after the semifinals in 2023?
Yeah, it was the complete opposite. I was very, very sad. um I like not depressed, like that's a big word, I think, and I know like I've known some friends that are a bit depressed, so it's not like a depression, but just very sad for a long period of time. And I remember like like even my family, they would talk to me about CrossFit and I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. And I had to take like, I think it was 2 weeks or something, not talking about CrossFit. And I remember it was a bit hard because I also had like an event I had to attend for a sponsor. So I was happy to go there because I still love CrossFit and everything, but it was hard because it was actually the week after semifinals.
Mm.
So I had to still be a bit in shape because I had that event and I had to be around CrossFit, but at the same time I was so sad. I didn't want to talk about CrossFit and everything. But I think I took the days I needed to just be sad because it's also good to just feel your emotions. That's what I've been taught. And I think it works well. But then it's like, what can you do about that to go and like move on and but like learn from what happened and not just, erase it because that's not how it works in life, I think. And like I've also worked a lot with my mental prep about that, like what can we take, what can we not take, and how do we move on.
How much has that changed your approach to training? The work with Mario for what now? Almost 2 year, a year and a half, 2 years.
A year and a half, yeah.
Yeah. So what has that changed globally in the way that you train and the way that you think?
Mm. I think like first and foremost, it helped me like get to know me myself, like know myself better. Like he has a really, I think it's called holistic approach when you just like we don't talk only about CrossFit and performance, and obviously it's a big part of our conversation. But before we dived into like what were my goals and everything, it was really like how do I how do I interact with people? How do I interact with myself? What do I think? And a lot of work on like words because it's also important. We've talked about that before, but how do you express yourself with yourself and with the other people? Like those are the things like that changed a lot. So about that, and then obviously as well about CrossFit and like for example the thing like after a competition it's good that you celebrate like even though if it didn't go well like you just take a few days to just soak it all in and after that you move on and there are phases and I mean we talk about a lot of stuff but yeah it helps me a lot. Like we started it was like more frequent now we just like we talk once a month and it's good like this, but if I feel I need to talk more we'll just schedule a meeting and it's always like I drive the conversation and what I need and everything and then he like it's an interaction etc. But it always depends because it depends what I have on my mind and what I have to talk about and
Do you think that athletes that want to perform, that aim for big results in their sport, do you think the mental side should be something that's taken care of with a professional?
yeah, totally. And I don't know if you want like I think it just has to be someone you can trust. I don't know, like I work with a mental prep, but it can be like I don't know, maybe it can be a good friend or maybe not a friend, but just someone you trust that can help you like be a bit like into CrossFit, but as well like take you out and like put perspective into things. I think that's very important.
Mhm. So back to the semis last year, I remember the conversation we had afterwards as well, because I think the French throwdown was maybe 2 weeks after
Mm.
semis, and
Yes.
obviously you wanted to go because you wanted.
Mm.
Uh, why did you want to go? I think that's the place to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite easy. Just like I was so frustrated about semis, and I just wanted to go into another competition and just have a good experience and crush it.
In hindsight, now was it the right decision not to go to
Oh yeah.
the French throwdown and just focus
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
recovery? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, when you're in the moment, like it's hard, and you're like, why don't you want me to go to that competition? Like, I have to, like, that's my job to perform in competition, blah, blah, blah. But then you have to think about like the big picture, and that's why you're very helpful. especially you and Max that are not into the world of CrossFit. I mean, obviously the team agreed, like everyone said I should not go, but it's good that you were there to tell me like not to go and just focus on planning like what's my goal for next year. It's the games. Okay, so if you want to go to the games, you should not go to the French Showdown because you have to work and not to compete.
Right. There's we'll talk a little bit more about that later on, the difference between the training and the competing. So semis last year, not the result that you wanted. What were the biggest takeaways for you? What were the things that you needed to work on to
Hmm.
make up that gap and be able to qualify for the games?
Yeah, I think it's like it's what like we just took the leaderboard. It's quite simple and at the same time not simple, but you just look at where you need to perform and where your like least good placements are. And obviously for me it was the running event, so we worked a lot on that running, and as well as the like strengths overall. Especially I felt it on the sled. Like
Mhm.
the snatch was quite okay compared to the field, but like row strengths, like the sandbags and stuff like that, I knew I needed to work on. And also like we looked at the girls that qualified last year. It was very shocking. They were like very tall girls and very big, except maybe two girls like Emma and Elisa were a bit like the comment on dit,
Outliers?
yeah, but then the others like, and that changes as well every
It
year, but
does.
last year it was very shocking. And I looked at myself and I was like, okay, I need to gain weight. Like that's something we have to work on. And so yeah, that's what we did.
And so talking about this, the summer of last year,
Mm,
you focused heavily on running and on gaining weight, muscle, a lot of strength work, and you really put aside CrossFit for a period of time. Was that the first time that you
yeah,
really kind of dissociated your training like that?
yeah, totally.
How did you feel going into that phase with very little CrossFit and a lot of strength work, a lot of running?
It was horrible. I remember I texted you and I'm like, Sean, I hate it. Like, I need to eat so much. I feel so unfit. And yeah, like I couldn't handle it. It was very hard. Yeah.
How long was that phase?
Actually, it was like 3 good months because it was July. So June was a bit still in between and we were planning and everything, but I think we started late June until mid mid September,
Mm.
probably.
Hmm. Right. So a good 10 weeks of very dissociated training. So like you said, feeling unfit, doing
Mm,
things that you're not particularly good at, which must be also hard for the ego a little bit in
mm,
training, because
yeah.
obviously we usually gravitate towards things that we're good at because it's more enjoyable to do things that we can perform in. So what did you do during those, say, 10 weeks of focus training to get through it, even though it was hard? What helped you get through the this phase?
Yeah, I think talking to you guys, like the team, just like, okay, this time I felt a bit better. What can we do to, keep the like even though I knew it was like hard stuff and I needed to work on it, but the hard thing was also like I was gaining weight, so I felt tired because I was eating, and then the training were like hard in a nervous system way because it was weight training. So like it was always like I just felt tired, I remember. And I just felt like I had to eat all the time. So yeah, well, talking to you with Basil as well, like when we're eating, like trying to put strategies, and yeah, I think, and also like doing something else, like meeting with friends or stuff like that, because I still train. Then it was some hours, but I also had like time in between. So yeah, that was also something.
Talk about the week that you transitioned back into more CrossFit training. How did that feel?
No, you don't want to know. Yeah, actually, I think it was I transitioned like okay, so two things. We transitioned a bit because we did the row qualifier. A very bad idea, but at the time we didn't know it was, I mean, you maybe knew, but you didn't tell us. um so yeah, at the beginning of the year, obviously you set goals, and then when you don't reach a goal you change the goals, blah blah blah. So after semis we said, okay, we do an off season, but I still had that goal of doing rogue qualifiers and hopefully do the rogue. But then we didn't reassess that goal, considering that we were not doing workouts. So but at the same time, like, it was just qualifiers, you don't pay anything, like, you just, I mean, it's a test. But then I was very unfit, I did the workouts, and the row qualifier workouts are very hard, and it's like, yeah, it's stressful because you also have to weight a lot of stuff. Like, it's very, like, it's huge, I would say, like, huge procedure. You have to
Mm.
weight your barbells and stuff like that. So it was like, even though I knew I wasn't in shape and in very great shape, I was like, okay, maybe it's just a test. But then looking backwards, like, when you're not in shape, it's not fun to try to compete because you just get frustrated, and then you compare with the others. Like, okay, I knew I wasn't in shape, but I'm, so yeah, it was very frustrating. But lessons learned, like, now we know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember that period, and I think I held back from saying anything because I had already been maybe the me and Max, maybe the main drivers of saying maybe doing the French is not the best idea right now. Just recover and let's think about, next season, next year, what can we change? And then I didn't want to come down and say you shouldn't do the rogue either. You shouldn't do this. You
yeah.
shouldn't do that. And so I held back on this one. Maybe I should have said something, but definitely, like you said, doing a really hard qualifier when you're just coming out of a strength and running phase where you haven't done, you're not in, you're in shape, but you're not in CrossFit shape, right? And I think that's probably something that will become more and more important as for you, but anybody for who the level goes up. The fitter you get,
Mm,
the shorter period of time you can be in top shape in the year, right? When you begin, you can be fit, quote unquote, 12 months a year. But
mm.
then as you become better and better, you need to really choose when do I want to be in top shape. And the other times you have to deal with the fact that, hey, I'm not in top shape, but I know why. And that I think was, like you said, part of the learning process.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
And I've never done that before. So,
mhm.
like, as you just said, I was fit all the time before that, and before, yeah, before this last off season. So yeah, it was something I had to learn.
So hard road qualifiers, and then you had another, was
Yeah, and
it?
then I
No,
had Madrid, but
right.
that was
Team.
a team, and actually this experience went very well. So I think I had the two, like, sides. Um, I knew I wasn't fit for like a individual qualifier hard workouts, but I knew, like, I was still fit enough to do a team, and it went very well. And it gave me again, also, like, the confidence after semis that didn't go that well on the floor and everything. So yeah, we had a great time there, and I felt fit there. So that was like a good back into CrossFit stuff again.
Do you remember how many weeks after you had transitioned from the dissociated phase you went to Madrid? Was it a month, 3 weeks, a month, maybe something like that?
Madrid was in August, I think,
Was
or
it?
late August. Yeah, it was a few days after my birthday, so it was
Mm.
beginning of September,
Okay, so right,
like the second weekend of September.
right. So that was a good experience. Do you think you would do it again? Do a team event in the off season to just,
Yeah, maybe, like, if I get the opportunity, and because it's a good way, like, you're fit enough to, as teammates, you can, like, help each others and stuff like that, and you still have that, you're not like a chubby little thing, but you don't have, like, you can rely on other people.
Hmm.
So that's good, and you don't have that pressure all on you. It's more like in team, it's a lot about the strategy, and like, do you get on well with the other guys, do you know the other guys, and the execution is also very important,
Hmm.
because usually, like, there are not so long workouts, but either it's like you go, I go, so you have to perform in a short period of time, and it's very sprinty. Like, it's rarely the case you do like 15 minutes of continuous work, and it's like all together.
And I guess you got to be a lot more aware of your surroundings because
Yeah,
like you said, you have to sync yourself with another teammate or all the other teammates. You have to work together. So it maybe takes you out of your head a little bit, where
yeah,
in
yeah,
an
yeah. So,
individual, it's just you and your performance. And in team, it's not. You have to look around and
yeah, and
notice.
you learn a lot about that as well. Like, I did a lot of team before, like, I don't know, like in 2019, 2020, we did a lot of team with Luke and everything, and I know I always enjoyed that. So it was also good to like go back on a team and perform and at even higher level. It was fun.
Then it was on to Dubai, right? That was the next big competition for you, the kind of midway through the season towards semifinals. Talk about your prep for Dubai. What did you do differently than the year before?
So yeah, Dubai. Well, we obviously went back into more CrossFit stuff, but the good thing about Dubai is that usually they have some like very specific to Dubai events. So like sometimes it's very like strongman stuff and stuff like that. So, and it's good because that was the stuff I needed to work on.
Mm,
So we actually went back into training, but still focused on strength a lot. And we did a lot of like strongman stuff with like heavy dumbbells carry or yoke carry and stuff like that. So that was good. We still kept a lot of running as well. But like more workouts and more CrossFits again.
mhm. Uh, let's go back on this a little bit before we talk about Dubai. The progression of your running, what did it look like? What did it consist of between quarters and semis last year? And then talk about the evolution of your training, of your running workouts between semis and Dubai as well.
Yeah. So between quarter and semis, we had like what, maybe 2 months?
Mm,
I don't remember, but it was a short period of time. So obviously, like, you cannot build a base in running in like 2 months. So we had to start quite slowly, but at the same time still like get into what we thought would show up at semis. um and actually last year we had the workouts like 3 or 4 weeks before, so it was a month of just like we knew what we had to do. So that's maybe helped a bit on the running side. I don't know, maybe not. I mean, it's still the same. Like, you cannot get like so much better in 2 months in running. But before, like, I've always had like back pain while running, and so I was good at running until I couldn't push because my back would just blow up,
mm,
and I had to slow down. But it wasn't like, my heart or whatever, it was just muscular pain. So that was the main focus when we started to work with Max, just like, okay, what's happening and what can we do? So we started with a lot of like drill work, footwork, strengthening the right muscles, and also some good warm-ups before the sessions. I was also doing like back work, but not like strength work, but more like I don't know, stretching, but still dynamic stretching kind of
mhm,
things.
mhm,
And then we started with like just zone 2 runnings, and then we added a bit like intensity. And then because we had we knew that it was 800s, and I think it was 2K or something like that. I think we worked specifically on that to just like get the pace.
Mhm.
We did maybe a bit of threshold work, but we didn't have that much time neither, because 2 months is, so I think we worked a lot on like just yeah, footwork and stuff like that, and the
Mhm.
drills and the back, like fixing the back.
How long did it take for you to be able to run pain free?
I think at Sammy's it was still like the in between, like it was less pain, like more pain free, but I also injured my back a month before Sammy's, so that didn't help.
Right,
I don't know if you remember.
I do.
Um, Hopefully on the running it did not hurt that much. Was weird, but it was more like sacroiliac. I don't know if you
Okay.
say that in English.
Yeah.
And the running, it was more the muscles.
Hmm.
So like I didn't felt that much on the back in the running, but it didn't help anyway. So yeah, it was, yeah, I think I explained it all. And then after Sammy's until Dubai, we had much more time to just go back to the basics, do again all the strength work that I required, the drills, and then build the base with like zone 2 work, and then tempo, and then threshold work, and then the more specific VO2 max sprinty stuff. We also did a running camp, actually, just myself, Basil, and you and Max,
Hmm.
where we could test stuff. So yeah, that helped as well to like make sure I was in the right zones and paces and everything.
Hmm.
So
How,
yeah, yeah,
how was your back once you got to Dubai in regards to running? Was
yeah,
it
it was great.
so you didn't have any more back
Yeah, yeah,
pain
yeah.
when running
Yeah, I
once you got
think
there?
like maybe 1 month after Sammy's we could fix that back,
Mm.
or two
Yeah.
months maybe after Sammy, like during the summer.
So it took, yeah, 2 or 3 months of work, of consistent work to get rid of the
Yeah,
back pain, and then from that point on, you could, move forward, do more volume, do a bit more intensity, and not be limited by that previous situation. Like you said, the training camp was in September, if I remember correctly,
yeah,
because it was
correct.
just around that time. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the podcast too. Um, what did the training camp do for you in terms of why are training camps interesting in your opinion? Let's take that as a general question to begin with.
Because you're the coolest guy,
Oh,
Max. And also what I like I've done CrossFit camps and I love it. I mean, obviously I wouldn't do the sport if not, but it was good to, like, Max was so specific. Like he's a professional, like he was a pro in 3000 meters steeple
people chase, yeah.
steeplechase. It's like the horse race where they I don't know how to call it,
Uh,
uh,
the
over the barrier.
the barriers, yeah.
Yeah, they just jump and run, and it's horrible and it's so hard, but it's so much fun. So he has all that athletic background on running. So it was very fun to do a lot of technical work. We also did a bit of hurdle. That's hard to say.
It is
And yeah, and it was actually the first time I met him.
in
I
person,
think
right? Yeah.
person. So that was good too. And yeah, I think it's good to get out of your sport sometime. And that was the case. That was maybe the first time I did a camp with no CrossFit.
Hmm.
So that was fun. A lot of drills we did, a lot of technical work, but still we did like a few hard threshold sessions. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, definitely a good experience. So Dubai, you finished third.
Mm.
Really great podium results. Were you happy with that?
Yeah. I mean, how can you not?
Um, did you? I know we did. we did a bit of heat prep going into Dubai. Uh, in hindsight, do you feel like that was a good choice? Do you think that it helped you in any way, whether it's recovery or with performance?
Yeah, I think, and I think like it was winter during Dubai
Yeah.
time here, so I think it definitely helped to just get a bit warm, and get used to that, and also because we only did maybe one session a week, but doing one session a week at lower intensity, like one more session a week at lower intensity, that maybe also helped on like driving the volume down and not doing too much of
Mm.
intensity before the competition. So I think it helps, yeah.
So looking back on that first phase of your season, so you had that 8 to 10 week, dissociated training where you did a lot of strength, try to build some muscle, a lot of running, and then back into the CrossFit and placing third in Dubai. So what were your main takeaways from that first phase of training, that first part of the season? How did you feel about the training there?
Yeah, I mean, it proved to me and to the team that we are on the right path and we did just what we needed, and we just have to keep on doing what we do. Like we know we have to target some stuff, and we also realized maybe like how many weeks or months I needed to, get back into more CrossFit to be performance at a competition. So
Mhm.
that also helps because we never did that off-season-ish thing. So that was a good takeaway. Um, and yeah, I mean, if you're on the podium of a competition, you still have work until you win. And even if you win, you have work because it's, always other events and stuff like that. But yeah, it like definitely proved that we did a good job.
That's what I tend to say now when people haven't tried the dissociated, doing kind of an off season, a proper off season, and work on their weaknesses or what they really need to improve in order to level up. You just have to do it once. You just have to do it once to realize what it can bring you. And like you said, learn about yourself. How many weeks do I need to be in top CrossFit shape? How many weeks can I go get away from the sport and still be okay when I come back? And then it kind of unlocks that part of your training, and now you can do it again, and you can do it better because you have the lessons from the first time around. So talking specifically for you in that situation, what do you feel is the right amount of CrossFit before you go into a big competition? How much time do you need to feel ready to be at your top if you haven't done CrossFit in the phase before that?
Yeah, I think maybe like to be safe, maybe like 2 months, I would say.
Hmm.
But I think like, yeah, 7 to 6 weeks, if not. But like, yeah, I would say 2 months,
Right,
maybe.
so around 2 months, which which is
Do you
good.
agree?
Hmm?
Do you agree? I think it was maybe two
I think
months.
it's good. I think
But I,
5 6 weeks might be a little bit short to
yeah,
just get
yeah.
to your tippy top shape, but then somewhere between 6 and 8, 6 and 9 weeks, I think would be a good spot. Um,
But I think I want to add that like what I did was specific to myself,
yeah,
and you
absolutely.
cannot apply it to everybody because sometimes I get asked, okay, should I just do like you did? No, you should not, because that this is what I needed, but you need something else. So maybe of course you need to focus on working on what like you need to work to get better into CrossFit in general, but you should not do exactly as I did in doing running and like strength stuff. If you're the strongest person on the field and you run the fastest, like obviously, but still like people can ask stuff like that. And yeah, and as well, like I need maybe 2 months to get back in shape, but maybe you just need 1 month, or maybe you need 6 months, I don't know. But
Hmm.
like learn about yourself and what you need, and that's, yeah, everyone is so different.
Yeah, that's it's good that you put that forward. I think it's important to really use your training as a learning process as well.
Yeah, correct.
But for that, you need to take maybe take a little bit of risk for some people if that's how they see it now, but it's really just accepting that you're going to do something different so you can learn from it. And then maybe it was the right decision, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was the right timing, maybe it wasn't, maybe next time you need to do it differently. But if you never change the way that you train on a macro scale, right? Because the day to day is one thing, but here we're talking about, weeks and months of how you structure training. If you never take a chance on that front, you'll never know if you could do better or if you can change it. So I think, at least for me, that was a great experience living through that with you last year, is seeing that, hey, it works. We did 2 months, 3 months of something else, and then we came back to CrossFit for 2 months, and you go and you podium, and you're, arguably in the best shape that you've been so far. So post Dubai, you take what, a month off?
Yeah, I think it was 3
3 weeks.
weeks.
Um, how do you deal with those times now, given that in the past it was not always the easiest for you to take time off and do nothing, or do, not think about CrossFit? How do you live through those transition phases now?
Yeah, so much better. And I think as well what helped after Dubai is that I performed well.
Hmm.
And on top of that, I was on the podium, like on the podium, so that definitely helps to like, okay, I earned some rests. But I think like even if you don't reach your goal, like you definitely need rest. And I think the more you train, the better you get, the more you need like to take some time off. And that was as well something I had to learn, like because before that I would do a competition and take maybe 3 days because I knew like still like physically I soon understand that I couldn't just go back to training on a Monday. But yeah, I think, and then you also like talk to other people and you with your friends or competitors that are some are your friends, like you just see what they're doing and maybe you need more and that's okay. But yeah, it's important to don't do CrossFit and take some time off.
They're hard things to hear when you haven't done them before, but once you've done them, you understand how much they bring to your training, right? Um, so that brings us to beginning of 2024, and we start again with a strength phase, right? Big focus for what, 6, 8 weeks?
Yeah, I think it was something like that. Yeah.
How did you feel getting back into it after the transition, beginning of the year, after a little holiday down under with
Yeah.
your friends? How
Yeah,
how
good.
did you feel?
It was good actually. And I think like what's also important when you get back into training, like you cannot aim to train as you did just before the competition because you've rested and your fitness might be gone a bit again, but it's fine and you should just like start easily. And that was good to start with more like strength stuff and less intensity and yeah, it was a good way to get back into that, and it was easier on the mind as well because I knew it worked for Dubai, so I knew that was still something I needed to work, and it will probably still be the same because I mean those girls are so strong, it's crazy, like big and strong, and and I'm getting bigger obviously, but still like I still need to work on that. So but I have more confidence in doing that work than maybe before. I've never done it before.
I have two questions. I don't want to forget them. The first one is, how long does it take you now? Because you've done it multiple times, you start to understand how you work and how quickly you adapt. How long does it take you to get back to, let's say, regular training after a big transition? So you did 2 weeks, you did 3 weeks off. How many weeks of training do you need to feel like you're back at kind of regular training, pace and intensities and performance?
I think at least a week, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's even more like 2 weeks. But like if I think about like just now because I've trained again like after semis I started like really training back last Monday, and now I feel like I'm getting back into like the feeling of being fit, but we're still not doing that many workouts at the moment.
Mm.
So it's like I feel good. The first week I don't feel good, and that's okay. So at least like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Yeah, I would say that.
That has been not an issue, but it has been a situation in the past where you got back to training after a break and you almost broke yourself because you wanted to just go all out from the start. So how do you deal today with not being not
Yeah.
feeling great in training in that first week? What do you tell yourself? How do you what words do you use? Maybe you can help some people if they get back from a transition to I guess accept that you're not in your peak shape. You're not going to feel that way for a little bit still. How do you work through that?
Yeah, I think I used to text you like, what are we just doing that this week? Like, what the fuck? Can I have some more training? Like,
And then Sunday you said, "Oh my God, I'm dying."
but no, I don't think I want to give any advice. You just have to learn by yourself. Like,
Hmm.
just do what you think is good, and if you're burnt out, well, then you learn and and you will see. Like, but I think it's you cannot give advice like that. You just have to experience it.
Experience it and again accept that if you don't feel
Yeah,
great on week one, it doesn't matter
yeah,
because
yeah,
your competition is not on week one, right?
really.
It's in a few weeks or even in a few months.
Mm.
The second question I had that I didn't want to forget was between those two big strength blocks that you guys did with Luke, with Basile as well, between last summer and the beginning of 2024. How much weight have you gained? What kind of numbers are you seeing on your strength lifts? What has changed the most in your I guess in your overall performance and also in your body weight in that time?
So during the summer, I think I gained almost 5 kilos
Mm,
body weights, and then it went down a bit with like the more CrossFit stuff. So I went down again like 2 kilos, maybe a
mhm.
bit less. So overall, I would say it's 3 good kilos that I gained, and I don't think I've gained like big strengths on like my max lifts because but we also don't test them a lot, so you just feel good at like bigger numbers but you don't know if your max is that much higher. But I felt so good, especially on like the strongman stuff.
Mm.
Like the sandbag used to just kill me. Like even 50 kilos I could, like I did 10 and I would just die, and now I could do like 10 touch and go, and still like it's hard, but like I could do it, and I could never done that like last year.
Mhm.
So stuff like that was the biggest change, like dumbbells as well, or yeah, just raw strength.
And if you look at semis this year versus last year, do you know what your weight difference was between the two?
Yeah, I think I would say 3-ish kilos.
3 kilos. And so what do you weigh now?
64.
64, right? And
I
considering
was
that,
61 last year.
yeah, and a lot of the women in your category are more in the 65 to 70 kgs. Obviously, they're a little bit
Easily 70, yeah.
easily, yeah, and they're I guess taller. What's your height?
160.
Right. So you're definitely not the tallest of the field.
No, neither. I think Felix is the smallest, but yeah, I'm the second smallest. Maybe I'm the same as Emma. I
Right.
don't know.
So that brings us to game season. The op
Yeah.
the open. How did the open feel this year?
Uh, it was okay. Like, I don't know, it was not okay, actually. I was very sick. The first workout, I was fine. And then I caught bronchitis. So,
Bronchitis. Right.
yeah, bronchitis. So not fine at all. I was coughing as hell for 2 good weeks.
Right.
I couldn't like I couldn't go into intensity. I would just die. And 24.2 was just 20 minutes of high intensity on the rowing, double unders, and deadlifts, and I just it was hell. And then yeah, the last one was also like it was good because I was good at it, like thrusters and gymnastics. That's something on paper I could do a very good score,
Hmm.
but I was still quite sick, not recovered at all. So I did something okay, but far from what I could do like when I'm in shape.
Was that just after you did those training camps? And do you think I know we talked about that in a little bit
Mm.
in preparation for semis. looking back to those first, I think it was the first 8 weeks of 2024. Would you today, if you had to go back and do it again, would you do anything differently in the management of your training? And I think there was 2 training camps, week
Yeah, I
five
think
and
we did
seven, something
three
like that.
actually.
3,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Was that too much?
Yeah, I think like again, like we learned with the experience and now we know, but obviously we adapted the training to the training camps and we didn't do as much as if I didn't have a training camp. But and we also took some days, like it was a first a 3-day training camp and then I had the 2 days training camp and then again a 2-day. But then like on the last one I knew I couldn't handle 2 days, so I just did 1 day of training camp. So we still adapted, but it's still like on a training camp, you even if you don't compete, you're with like peers that want to push, so you want to give a bit more maybe that you do in training. And yeah, I think it was maybe too much to do 3 of them in a row. So yeah, I would say that it did not help to be to fight a virus that would come afterwards.
Right. Um, but after that, you had a good month of training, going into quarterfinals. How did you feel at quarters?
Yeah, I felt in very good shape for quarterfinals. So it was hard around the open, but again, like you don't have to perform, but you're an athlete and you want to do good, so you don't want to be 600-ish in the world. So it's a bit hard, but like after that, okay, you move on, and then next up is quarterfinals. So it was a bit like all stories. And yeah, I think quarterfinal went very well. We did it in Grillen with Victor. It was very fun. I think the past years we've always done it together and it was always very fun, with also a lot of other athletes that come to Grillen. So yes, it's always a fun period, even though it's a bit stressful because it's like online and you have to watch out about the videos and stuff like that. And then after that's done, you have the leaderboard, but you still don't know after a week because this year especially they did crazy penalties.
Right.
I actually got one on the this famous workout with the box step ups. I'm not sure they watched the videos, but but
Maybe
that's
next year
fine.
they'll pick better
It was
movements.
only like 4 reps penalty,
Okay.
so not so bad.
Some athletes got really big penalties, huh?
Yeah,
Some
yeah, yeah.
games athletes, I think, didn't make it through because of it.
Yeah, correct. So
Um,
yeah, overall quarterfinals, very good experience.
I want to come back on something that you said before we move on to, the quarters, the semis prep. Um, you've been training with Victor now for a while. How long have you guys trained together at Grillen?
Yeah, I started in 2019, so um 3 good years.
Yeah, cool.
Because at the
So
beginning I wasn't I was also less in Colmar. I was more in Strasbourg. I didn't go that much. So 3 good years that we see each other quite a lot.
mhm. And so Victor used to work with Luke, who programs for you, who has programmed for you for how many years now?
Yeah, since the beginning.
Was it 7,
2016.
8 years?
Yeah, I mean, I traveled a lot for my studies and I didn't do like Mjolnir from the beginning, but maybe when I was back, 5 to 6 good years, and we
Mm.
always kept in touch. So maybe it was not called Mjolnir, but it was talking with Luke.
Yeah, right. So Mjolnir, for those who don't know, is Luke's training program. He's based out of Colmar in France, and so you've trained with Victor for many years now. Last year, after the games, he started working with Matt's team, right, with
Yeah,
HWPO.
yeah.
Um, but he's still based in France. He still trains at Grillen. So how has that changed? Has it changed anything in your relationship, the training that you guys do together?
No, I mean, obviously we don't do the same program anymore. So before that, even though we didn't train physically at the same place, we could like send each other's the scores or talk about that. But I think we've done a great job on still like talking to each other, and I'm going every Wednesday to Colmar, so we still see each other, and even though we don't do the same program, like we talk about all the things, like it's still good. And and yeah, you don't have to do the same program, I think, to sometimes do stuff together. Like maybe we did warm-ups together, or we did maybe a block together, and then we asked the coach if that was fine, and like we did quarterfinals together. So there's still a lot of stuff we do together, and it's good to do that together.
Yeah, I think that's really good. The training dynamic changes, like you said, when there's other people around and when there's
Mm,
somebody that you know that you've trained with for many years. I think those are always good. There's always good things to have. You know, a good training partner, a good entourage.
mm.
Always helps. Talk a little bit about your training week. So you said you only you come to Greenland on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
So what do the other days of your week look like for those that are curious to know? You know, how does Claudia
Mm.
train? What do you do on a Monday, Tuesday? So
Yeah,
talk to us
so
about your
I do 5 sessions a day, every day. I train from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., no breaks.
that was the Froning video from 12 years ago
Oh,
where he's literally saying,
yeah.
"Yeah, I do 5 workouts a day." And I still wonder today if that was a strategy so that everybody would go and do five
Oh,
workouts a
maybe.
day and they and blow up. And he was just, you know, chilling and doing his thing. But anyway,
Maybe.
sorry, go ahead.
Could be fun. So now since Dubai, I train full time. Before that, I was like working, studying, then I finished. So I worked like part-time kind of on like more business management stuff. Now I'm full-time into CrossFit, but I still coach 2 classes a week. So usually Monday I do 2 sessions a day. One will be in the gym, either in the morning or in the afternoon. The other one will be more like either running or cardio stuff. So I do it home or on the track or somewhere else. Then on Tuesday I coach 1 hour the some seniors at the university, so it's
Mhm.
very fun. We don't do CrossFit, but I kind of use the methodology. I do it with a friend, so we share the classes, and it's very fun. They're a great group. They're great people, and yeah, it's fun to do that. And then I train in the morning. Usually, I do a home session. In the afternoon, I go to the gym, and usually I go to Tribok, Basil's gym, and Luc meets me there
Mhm.
since last year. So so that's it. And then on Wednesday, I go to Grillen. I coach a kids session in the morning. It's very fun as well. Then I do a session in the morning after the coaching, a break, and then another session in the afternoon. On Thursday, I swim, and then Friday, Saturday, it's again 2 sessions a day, and the same as like Monday. One will be in the gym, and the other one will be outside.
Hey, real quick, I've prepared a free mini course to help you understand everything that you absolutely need to know on training zones, how to train zone 2 for your sport, and how to organize your endurance training in general. You can sign up for free using the link in the description. So, outside of Tuesday when Luke is there with you and the Wednesday when you're at Grillen, would you say you train mostly by yourself?
Yeah, it's like I do my program, but then Basil is in the gym doing training, and then sometimes other people are in the gym. So I'm never by myself, but yeah, I like no one else does my program, or it's rare that someone does.
Mhm. Is that something that you would like to change? Do you feel like you need more kind of training partners that are pushing you on a daily basis, or do you find that your current rhythm works well for you?
No, I think it works well for me. Like, I love to share moments with people, and I love the social aspect of being in the gym and being with people. But I think it's good to stay by yourself. Like sometimes it's good to like go on a camp and kind of compete with others or just train with others. But when you train with others, you kind of compete. and it's easier, I think, on the long run if you don't want to burn out. I mean, for me it works well to be just by myself, so I can listen to myself more. And we I don't go like red line all the time to all my training session. I think it does not work well. And so yeah, it's easier when you're just doing yourself, you're only like your stuff, to do that.
Is that Has that always been the case, or did you used to train with more people around in the past?
When I was studying, I actually trained a lot with other people. But I've been, I've always, I think, been quite good at like knowing when to push and not to push. So it was fun. And now it's mostly because I just train at different hours. Like when I was studying and working, I trained early in the morning, late at night. Now I can do like one session in the morning and one in the afternoon. So that's mainly the reason why, because all the other people are working, or most of the other people are. So yeah.
Okay, let's come back to our season quarterfinals going into semifinals. So you felt
Mm.
good at quarters. What was your mindset going into semis prep?
Yeah, I mean the games. Um, I knew I wanted to get my games tickets. I knew I was in very good shape and I was very confident about it. So I knew I just had to arrive there in shape and not injured as last year. Don't do too much, but as well like still do something. Like obviously you have to train. Uh, but yeah, I think I was much more calm and much more focused on myself than like I didn't care about everything else that was going on. I was just focused and I did what I had to do, just my work, and it worked very well.
Yeah, there was still a little bit of wanting to do more just before semis. We had that
Mm.
conversation where you wanted to add a running session in, and then we had a chat with Max, and we both said, she doesn't need an extra running session. This, the, it's hard, right? Because you want to do good work, you want to be ready, and then when you doubt yourself a little bit, the instinct is usually to do a bit more,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But then is that the right answer? That's always kind of the question
Mm.
that is hard to answer. Okay, so you managed to channel yourself, channel your energy, and not do too much. I mean, we wrote the plan with the team, like we've been talking about at the beginning, right? It's Luke writes the main CrossFit program. Basile helps you a lot with all the strength work, all the injury prevention, all the little things, mobility and whatnot. Max programs you're running, and I help manage the global load and also all the ergs, essentially all the conditioning. And it's really, like you said from the beginning, it's teamwork, right? We get
Yeah,
together, we talk, we say no, I don't agree, or oh, I suggest we do this because. And that's something that I've really appreciated from the beginning is this openness in our ability to talk as a team, and knowing that we're all pulling in the same direction. It's all for you to perform the best that you can. There's no, oh, I want this because I am blah blah blah. It's really, everybody's on the same level, and that's, I think it's pretty unique, at least in my experience, because often when you get into more professional sports, you have, obviously you have different people with different goals and different aspirations and different agendas and pulling in their own directions. But it's always been great working with you guys because it's one team, and while pulling in the same direction. And I think after quarters, when we had that meeting and we planned your weeks of training up until semis, essentially the majority of the work was already done. And it was just about, okay, how do we make sure she's in top shape, and how do we make sure that we still tick the boxes but without just doing more to do more. So I think that was good. And then you got the Leo. How did you find the LDLC arena?
yeah, so good. I mean, it's a brand new arena. It just opened late November last year, I think.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it's very beautiful. Um, yeah, it's a great arena.
Do you think they'll do it again in Leo?
I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Maybe.
I mean, I haven't seen that many competitions. It was actually the first time I saw you in person in a
Yeah.
main CrossFit competition. I've been dying to come and see you. I couldn't come to Dubai last year. I couldn't come to semis last year. And I think yeah, it was a
Pick the right
crazy.
one.
I definitely picked. Yeah, I waited a bit, but I picked the right one, and it was definitely yeah. The atmosphere was absolutely crazy.
Did you
Yeah.
cry a bit?
Oh, I cry like a baby. Yeah. As soon as you pass the line, I just started crying. I might start crying now as well. No, it was I
Oh,
mean it was so intense.
yeah, it
It
was.
was so intense and it's literally just years, you know, years of work. And it's interesting because when you're on the outside of it, I don't think you realize it as much. What I mean is when you see somebody on TV or in a sport and they qualify or they win and they're so happy and you feel happy for them, but not more than that. But then when you're part of the process for years, you know, we started working together 3 years ago now. Um, it's crazy to see all that work, those thousands of hours of work and dedication, planning and mistakes and lessons and all of that all come down to this. So that was yeah, that was pretty intense, and the atmosphere helped a lot, you know, just
Yeah, as well.
and I was. How much do you think that atmosphere helped you on the snatch ladder? Because I literally texted Basile just before because he said, "Oh yeah, she did that in training," and then I messaged him and I said, "I think the crowd will take a few kilos off the bar for her."
Yeah, correct.
um,
Yeah,
did you notice it in the workouts? Did you feel it?
no, I mean, I'm always a huge adrenaline. I can like I can sense the adrenaline
Hmm.
and I work well with that. I think everyone does, but I'm always so much better at competition than at training, usually, like most of the time. So I knew like I would do better, but um, I don't think I hear the screams or the noise during the event because I'm such in a state of like laser focusedness. But definitely like the last 20 seconds or 30 seconds of a workout, you can hear it. And maybe like subconsciously you can hear it, you know, like maybe when you think, okay, you pick the barbell or whatever. But I don't think I consciously hear it.
Mhm. I want to talk about your execution at the semifinals. From the outside, looking at you for the whole weekend, it's not true. I didn't see your Friday workout because I got there on Friday. Um, it seems to me that it was almost a perfect weekend in terms of execution. At least I didn't see any big mistakes. Do you remember anything that you could have done better, or it's
I
something
think
different?
the only one thing, I think it was a no rep on the box jump.
Okay,
So 2 seconds. Ooh.
but
So
that was the only one, right, of the weekend.
yeah, I think, yeah, so much better than last year.
Is that something that you trained? How are you moving that consistency up on the competition floor, you know, from competition to competition and year to year? You've obviously done a tremendous amount of work on that because of the result that you just was able to attain. So how do you work on that, the execution part of competition?
Yeah, I think obviously you learn like competition after competition. Um, I think I'm a good student in like, you know, the movement standards and stuff like that. Like even sometimes I know people that are training, they just do like maybe less work to get in depth of a squat or whatever. But I think I've always learned to just do the movement right all the time, even though it's a bit like less fast,
Hmm.
slower.
Hmm.
Um, but that's just how I learned it, and it's important to me to do that. But then compared to maybe last semifinals, I think they also did the much better work in the programming.
Hmm.
Like it was hard to get an like it. They had some no rep issue, but I think you always have when you do a sport or CrossFit. But like last year pistols, it's hard to judge, or like ring muscle up with a backpack, it's hard. Like, so
Yeah.
I think it's all the movements, it was more like easier. A box jump, okay, if you touch your legs, that's a no rep, and I got one. But the other stuff, I think it was easier. But then, like, overall the execution, yeah, you learn it at competition. But I think I don't want to sound cocky or whatever, but I've been quite good at that, and I know that it's not competing that I needed, and I needed like to work on like my fitness, and not like my competing abilities,
Mhm.
because I knew I was good at that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah, still a flawless weekend for you almost. Besides that, no rep on the box jump, but yeah, I really enjoyed the programming from that regard as a spectator because all the movements were easy to judge, right? There were very few, if not any, movements that were just hard, or you could just be on the limit, and some get away with it, some don't. And I had Yele on a little while ago, and he said that
Mhm.
his judge miscounted his double unders, but then
Yeah.
he was able to appeal it,
Mhm.
and it went through pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
that's a positive thing as well. No, I think the competition was planned really well. It was nice to watch as a spectator because there was really that kind of start to finish on the floor, and it was kind of clear where you guys were in the process. So that was very enjoyable. Okay, now we're into games prep season.
Mm.
First games prep.
Yay.
How does it feel?
Yeah, good. Very good.
So you said you took 2 weeks off after semis?
Yeah, it was more like 1 week off, and then the other one was doing what I wanted to do, just training once a day. But I don't want to call it training. It was just moving, like running. I would go on a bike. I would do whatever.
Unstructured physical activity.
Yeah.
Is that something you've
Nice.
right?
Okay, you think I'm doing unstructured physical activity? Yeah,
But
that's my sport.
I guess that's a good in between, right? Just
Yeah.
coming back towards training, but not having written down sessions that you're doing, just moving again and getting back into your body after that break. I know you were in the south of France, right?
Yeah,
Doing your
Marseille.
doing it
Marseille
Marseille,
bébé.
yeah, with your friend Eva,
Yeah.
and got in a lot of sun and relaxed. How did that feel? Relaxing after semis, after you were able
Yeah,
to
good.
get your ticket for the games.
Yeah, it was good because when I got back here in Strasbourg, it was like crazy raining, very dark, and it was just like, you feel already like very down, like relaxing, but it's I think the weather, it's not helping if it's gray as well. Like
Mhm.
you're like, it helps when you're in the sun, you feel more relaxed, and yeah, I definitely needed to see the sun. So I thought, okay, I don't really like Marseille, but I love Eva, and I know she will show me the Marseille area that I didn't know, and it worked. Like, I really enjoyed Marseille this time. It was great. We did great stuff. So yeah.
That's really cool. What's gonna change? What is changing, if anything, in your training compared to before the games prep? So let's say what your training looked like before semis and what your training is gonna look like between now and the games.
Actually, I don't think a lot or that much will change. Um, we like, obviously, what we do, we just look at the games, how it works, and how it's structured and everything. But I've been running a lot, so I'm not gonna add more running. I'm just gonna keep on running a lot. um we've done quite a lot of like strongman stuff already, so I'll just do some more again. And yeah, I think uh not that much will change. Maybe we'll do a bit more like fun stuff, like bike outside or stuff like that. But we've also done it before, and it's just because it was not that good outside that we didn't do more. Um, so yeah, I don't think a lot will change actually.
that's something that we were talking about just before we started recording, the difference between training for the games versus competing at the games. And you said you've learned quite a bit from, you know, podcasts and talking to your friends and other athletes that have been to the games. How has that helped you approach that games prep from a mindset standpoint, and what you do in training versus what you're going to do at the games?
Yeah, I think maybe the common errors, and from what I've heard, like a lot of people, I mean, I don't know, and we will see this year, and I don't want to talk for what I don't know yet, but it's I heard that many athletes come at the game and they're already burnt out because they did like 2 months of crazy heavy shit training, and like a lot of crazy hard workouts, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of and some of them are also injured, and I mean that's also bad luck. Like I mean you can control it, but at the same time if it happens, like but usually it happens because you didn't manage well the volume and etc. So I think what I learned is just do what you've done before, like keep the same and focus on training and not like competing for 2 months.
Mm,
So that's something I'm gonna keep, and I think you need to change some stuff, but not everything. Like, of course, maybe you're gonna implement a new stuff on, I don't know, you buy a new bike and then you do some trail bike, or, stuff like that. And I'm gonna change some stuff. I'll do 2 camps, but I'm not gonna change the whole part of my training. And that's also something we discussed about, like as a team, like should we do 4 days of training and then rests? But then if you do that for 2 months, you'll maybe get injured by the time of the game. So yeah, I think we will not change that much.
yeah, I think, I mean, again, like you said, we will see if it was the right decision
Yeah,
once
maybe.
once you go
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
games. But it makes sense that we have a system that works now. We have a framework that we've used for a year now successfully with you, and we've gotten the, you know, you've gotten the results that you were after. Podium in Dubai, qualified for the games, and like you said, it's 8 weeks, 9 weeks of training until you go to Texas, and we can't change the world in that amount of time. And so anything drastic would be maybe an overcorrection. And we just need to keep trusting in, you know, everything that you've done and we've done so far, and trust the system, keep training, keep working, but like you said, not change things just because you want to change because it's different. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about is, you know, outside of training, everything that goes on outside of the gym, outside of the workouts. For you, what are the important parts of your life that help you, you know, keep that balance between being a professional athlete and being a human being, and then just keep that all in check?
yeah, I think that's so important. And I think everyone has their own stories, and they have to experience their stuff. But I'm glad that I transitioned into being like a professional and full-time athlete, with being first, a student and then working. And I met a lot of people. Uh, and I still do talk to a lot of different people outside of CrossFit. Obviously, like my best friends, most of them are in the CrossFit world, but still I'm very close to my family. That helps me a lot as well. So sometimes, on the weekends, sometimes I have to say no, and that's hard, but we meet on a Sunday and we have a good lunch, and then we talk about different stuff than CrossFit, and that's good. You're just a human being, and as a all human being, you need to have different stuff in your head, in your mind, and focus on different stuff. If you're laser focused on one thing, I think it's not working. And I've listened to many podcasts recently. I'm obsessed with Alexi Papas. I don't know if you know her.
Mm.
But she has done great stuff, and I really like what she does. Like, she is a great runner. She was an Olympian, and she's now into arts, and she has pursued the arts at the same time as running,
Mm.
like, professionally. And she entered into a huge depression, and like that was very hard and stuff. And again, she talks about how important it is to have different focus. And usually, like, we think that the best athletes in the world, they are just training, and they are just like focused on that, and they have nothing else in their world. And of course they do train hard, and I'm sure like they are very focused and disciplined and everything, but I'm sure they have like great family members around them. Even though it's a small family, you don't have to have like 50 people, but like, I think the extremes are not working. You cannot be like 10,000% focused on one thing and have nothing else around. Like, yeah.
I think what's interesting with this is it's hard to see it in the day to day, right? The
Mm,
importance of having that balance, but I think the wider lens you take, the more it manifests itself, right?
yeah.
Because over a month period, you could go and train every day and not see anybody else, and you'd be fine. But I think if we talk about mental health, longevity, and health in general, I think that starts to become, more important in the conversation, because now you're talking about months and you're talking about years, and that's literally what it's taken you, to get to that games level is years of training, years of dedication. And we've seen in the past years, we've seen some athletes pull out of the season and say, I need a break. I need to take a year off and focus on myself. And there's obviously everybody's different, and each
Yeah.
situation is unique. But I think maybe, like you say, if you can find that balance in your day to day, in your week to week, maybe you don't need that year off, because you are taking those little moments, that Sunday lunch, that little break with a friend, that allow you to just keep training, to put the weeks in, the months in, the years in, and to reach your goals.
Yeah, correct.
Training camp next week. You're co-
Yay.
you're coming back to Switzerland. It's been a while.
Yes. Too long, too
it's
long.
it's been too long. It's been too long, and I have been too busy resting to come up and see you. But I'm looking forward to having you here, and you've invited a few friends. We got Victor coming, we got Moritz coming as well, and we got Elisa. That's going to be fun. I guess it's the first time for us too that we have other athletes, especially other games athletes, coming to do camp. So we're going to do Monday morning speed and technique with Max on the track. Afternoon, we're going to do technique on the ergs, ski and row, and then a little workout. Tuesday morning, easy run. Tuesday afternoon, CrossFit. Luke is coming, right? So he's
Yeah.
gonna lead the CrossFit session on the Tuesday. Wednesday morning, threshold on the track with Max. Might do a little bit of lactate stuff too. And
Mm.
then Wednesday afternoon,
Piercings.
yes. And then Wednesday afternoon, threshold on the bike this time. And then Thursday in the lake, right?
Yes.
What do you look forward to most about this upcoming training camp?
Eating the lunch of Flynn.
Yes, yes. Important point. Lynn, my wife, is going to be cooking lunches and dinners for the team, and we're also going to be eating right next to our favorite cafe. So I think
Yeah.
the coffee break after lunch is going to be nice, and hopefully we have good weather for that as well. Um, Claudia, I've got a few questions that our friends have asked on Instagram, and I know a lot of them were in French, so I'm sorry in advance. But we said we would do this one in English, so I'm just going to ask them in
Yes.
English. I'll put the subtitles for the Frenchies that wanna tune in. So Kev said, "Are you gonna own the You Can't See Me at the games?"
Actually, I've questioned a bit myself, because I know like you have rights on some stuff.
Right.
and I don't know if I can use it, but I would love to, and I would love to meet him. And actually,
John
we've got a
Cena.
questionnaire from CrossFit, and they asked us like stuff about our life, blah blah blah. And at the end, they say, "Okay, is there something else you want to add?" And I, I asked them that if they would invite John Cena to the games, it would make my day. So, hopefully, he will be there, and he will see me this time.
I think you should do it anyway. Maybe
Yeah, I think I will do it. And if I
do it
really
and then do
fail,
a
that's
backup
fine.
and do a backup
Yeah,
one just in case they're not allowed to use it. But I
yeah,
think you should
yeah.
do it. I mean, it's been you from day one, and I don't think you should change that for anything.
No, no, of course not.
Alex is asking about shoulder mobility for clean and jerk, squat, overhead. Do you have any advice?
Reach out to Basil to dig out training. He did a great program on that. Um, I work a lot with him on my mobility and the shoulder one, and like we've worked a lot on my ankles. So yeah, I would say reach out to dig out.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to Basile for that directly. Adeline asks, what is your mindset given that you're going to your first CrossFit Games?
Well, I'm very, very excited. I'm very happy. And I wanted to qualify to the games, but I don't want just to be there. Like, I want to be competitive there. And I know it's gonna be hard. I know it's gonna be very different from all the other competition I think I've done. But I'm excited to go there and give my best and be ready and compete and not just be a part of it, looking at it and yeah.
Um, Great content creator around CrossFit on Instagram, Truth Films, asks, do you practice visualization before hitting a lift or a movement?
Yeah, a lot before the lift, but also like during the week I work a lot on that. So but I think yeah, the lift is the maybe the easiest to visualize because um yeah, you have so many stuff you can do on that.
Do you have any advice for people that have never, used visualization and that want to start? Where do you start?
I think there are a lot of like great videos online with guided visualization because sometimes it's hard. You just close your eyes and you maybe just see colors or you don't see colors or you know there are a lot of stuff that you can do
Mm.
while visualizing. So I would recommend to just search it on the internet. There are great videos and you can learn a lot about that.
What is your favorite dish to eat?
Woo! I'm gonna respond after the camp when I eat all the Lynn's dishes.
And you can pick from one of the camp
Yeah,
meals.
correct.
Fantastic. I don't have that answer because we haven't actually explored that yet. But Erwin asks, what are your guys' thoughts on the airwave, which I think this little thing that you bite that helps you breathe
Ah,
a little bit
yeah,
more,
yeah.
and the nasal strips. I haven't used them yet. I don't think you have either, but I don't know if you have an opinion on it.
Actually, I received the airwaves from the company, so thank you again. And I tried it, but I just have a hard time having something in my mouth.
Hmm.
So I couldn't try it for a long period of time without being very, I don't know, dérangé.
Uncomfortable. Hmm.
Yeah, so I think it can be a great tool, but you have to try it yourself. And again, everyone is so different, and I'm sure it's working well for some people, but I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I
And
think that's a big part is do you feel comfortable with it? And
yeah,
if you
correct.
do, it's likely going to help you. But if it bothers you, then it's probably not.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You're going to
And I
say
didn't try the nasal strip,
not yet. Maybe something
but
that we'll do.
no, I hate touching my nose, so
Okay, so
I'm
we
not
won't do
gonna do
that.
that. No, sorry,
Well, that's
sorry, not
that's
this one, Sean.
that's the answer right there. That's fine by me. Um, Yayu asks, do you feel ready for the games?
Yeah, I'm so excited, so ready. Hashtag
Uh,
show.
#show. And she also asks, how do you manage frustration after an injury?
Yeah, I think that's something like for me, I had to talk about it a lot with my people and my prep. Um, it's good to remind yourself that of course you do stuff and you train and all that and you take it very seriously, but it's not who you are. Like it's what you do and not who you are. So when you're injured, you're not like broken. I mean, you have to heal, but you're still a person. You're still doing good. I mean, you're hurt a bit, but you have other stuff, and maybe that's the time when you have to focus on those other stuff and on healing and on working on your recovery more and sleep more. Most of the
Mhm.
time it's that.
And it maybe goes back to what you were saying before, having that balance
Yeah,
in
correct.
life, because when you get hurt and if you identify yourself as the athlete that does the sport only and you have nothing else,
Mm,
once this is gone, then you have nothing else to hang on to. So
correct.
having those people around you, family, friends, maybe other hobbies and activities that you can, fall back on and use to help you get through those hard times, that's very important as well.
Yeah, and also like what I learned over time and over talking to many different professional in the field of like physio or just doctors or whatever, or people working in healthcare. Like usually when you're getting injured or sick, you could control it before it happened. Like it's usually like except the traumatic stuff, like
Mm,
if you fall off a bike or something like that, maybe you could drive more safely, but like usually when you get sick you did a bit too much and then your body couldn't handle it or
mm,
fight against the virus or whatever. So usually it's also the time to reflect on what you've done and if you can change that for the longer term. And it's the same with the injury. Usually you did too much and you did not recover enough. So yeah.
yeah, and we talked about this before, and I don't want to weasel out of it, so I'm gonna say it too. Talking about injuries, I hurt my back 5 years ago now, and it was definitely a case of trying to do everything on all fronts. I was working a lot. I was coaching the rugby club at night. I was going there on the weekends. My wife was sick at the time, and I was still trying to break two personal bests on the rower every week, which was it's the fucking worst idea I've ever had in my life, but that's just what I was thinking at the time because I didn't know better. Hashtag zone two. But that definitely led
In what?
to hashtag, yeah, Team Watts. It's right there, actually. You can see it.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. And by the way, just give credit where credit's due. This is your logo, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You designed the Team Watts hashtag Team Watts logo. So it is important to take everything into consideration, and especially the stuff that's outside of training. I think we underestimate how much the outside help or impacts the training itself, and we think that we can keep training the same even though things aren't going well at home or in our head or at work. But we have to that has to be part of the conversation, and it has to be part of planning as well. We can't just close our eyes and do the same training. um yeah, it doesn't work. You have to look in front of you. Last question from me, you again. How do you get over mental barriers when it comes to weights in weightlifting, for example?
I think for that, visualization helps a lot, because usually how it works is your brain doesn't differentiate what you do from what you can see in your head. So if you can work on that, that would be very helpful. And also find a good coach that really helps you, of course, with that. Like you're not gonna visualize a barbell of 100 kilo over your head and then just do it. You have to find as well like someone that helps you with first and foremost your technique, because usually that's also the thing that is not working well before adding more weights. So making sure the technique is great, making sure your body feels good, work on visualization. That's so hard to say. Um, and then, yeah, it will be better over time.
Claudia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, boss.
That was a lot of fun doing it in English
Yeah,
too. Is
it
it
was
your
good.
first? Is your first podcast in English?
I think it's my second, but recently, I would say it's my first.
Yeah, and I think it was good to rectify or correct the records because uh, at semifinals, when the interviewer asked you a question in English,
Yeah.
you just started speaking French. So maybe people thought that you couldn't speak English, but you can definitely speak English enough to do an hour and a half podcast. That was really funny though. And she said, "Oh, can we do it in English?" And then you said,
That
"Yeah." And then you
was,
started speaking French, and everybody was laughing in the
but
stands.
that was maybe a good moment as well because my brain just couldn't work anymore. Like I was sure that I was talking in English because before that I said that I would do that, and
Yeah.
then just my brain switched off
Mm.
and I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, that was that
Yeah,
was that
everyone
was pretty
laughed, but
funny.
it was a funny moment as well.
Okay, now people know
Yeah.
Claudia Gluck can speak English and
Woo.
speak quite well actually. Uh,
Thank you for that.
yeah, Claudia, that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Sunday. I guess I'll see you Sunday when
Yes.
you get here,
Yeah.
and do those few days of camps. We're gonna do some pictures and video. Ava's gonna be
Yes.
here, so it's gonna be good. And yeah, road to Texas. Let's go.
Let's go, baby.
All right, take care, Claudia.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for watching this episode. If you want to support the show, there are two good ways that you can do so. You can leave a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you can help grow this community by sharing this episode on your social media. Thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next episode.